We got a great program here for you folks out there tonight. So grab your husband, your fiance, your boyfriend. They need to hear some of these things that we're going to talk about from these wives that we're going to have on the show. So thanks for tuning in to Transforming Your Relationship. My guests tonight are some beautiful ladies, Charmaine Barnett, Karen Jackson, Michelle Walters from the United States, Ingrid Gentles, and I've known most of these here, except for Ingrid. I've known them for, my Lord, 20 years. Marcia Terry was supposed to be here, but conflicting schedule. I've known her for, my Lord, over 50 years. Wow, we actually living that long. But we're glad to be here tonight, and I'm expecting to have a great time with these ladies here. So like I said again, grab your husband, your fiance, your boyfriend. They need to tune in if they want to increase their level of their relationship. So we've got a little bit, a lot here to cover, but we probably won't get it all. So we'll see what happens as a continuation. So I'm going to ask each of these ladies for 2 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself. I know these ladies most of them are business entrepreneurs. You know, they're doing so well. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's go with you, Charmaine, our principal.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here. So, as you just said, my name is Charmaine. I am currently a principal of a private school from children's JK to grade 12. Not much of an entrepreneur these days. I guess I'd rather be at the 9 to 5. I just admire these other ladies as they endeavor to do all they're doing and then try to support them. So yeah, I'm happy to be here tonight, and that's just a little bit about me.
Great. Karen Jackson, good to have you, Charmaine. Good friend of mine. Karen Jackson, another good friend. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Karen, the business you got going there.
Okay. Hi, my name is Karen Jackson Seymour. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. I'm an interior stylist. My business is called SBK Decor. I do interior decorating for people's homes and floor arrangements. And I've recently gone back to school.
Beautiful.
Middle age here, crisis, I guess. So I've gone back to school, and I'm a mother of 2 young men, 18 and 22, soon to be 23. Yeah, and that's nutshell. That's about me.
Interesting. Then we have the amazing Michelle Walters Johnson. She's promised to behave herself tonight, so we're going to see if that lives up to that.
Actually, I didn't swear on a Bible though, so you know, it doesn't mean much. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Walters Johnson. I am. What am I? I live in Windsor Mill, Maryland. I am the mother of 3 children, ages 16 to 23. I have been married going on 29 years now. Recently got a promotion to Senior Associate Director of Graduate Admission. God is good. Wow. And also I own Lady Behind the Wig. And Lady Behind the Wig is a organization that promotes awareness about alopecia, also supports women that are going through alopecia. And we also sell wigs for those going through hair loss. And that's enough about me.
All right. And then there's Ingrid.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ingrid Gentles. I'm currently retired, 32 years with the provincial government in Canada. Wow. Currently now retired and have now taken up, I've become a chaplain, and now I'm currently doing chaplaincy work, as well as I'm also an entrepreneur as well. I've got 2 grown children, and just looking forward to seeing what God is going to do in the next phase of my life.
Amen. That's always the interesting part. Just looking forward to what God is going to do. Let me tell you, the God that we serve, you folks can attest to it. He is full of surprises. You might think you have your plan all locked down, and He'll just put a curve and a monkey wrench in there, and that's just how we do. We just show up. We show up every day and just believe God will just guide and lead us. So I want to start off with the scripture. I love the scripture in 1 Peter 3 and verse 7. I think every husband should know this scripture. I mean, there's many others, but this one in particular, I really like it. 1 Peter 3 and 7 says, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them, who's them? Your wives, according to knowledge, get to know her a little bit, get to know her ins, get to know her quirks, get to know the emotional side, the physical side, the intimacy side. Get to know her according to knowledge. And after you've known all that, he says, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Men, if you don't treat husbands, if you don't treat your wife right, you know what? You better get down on your knees and ask God for forgiveness. That your prayers is not even going to go above the ceiling. You can take that to the bank. I didn't say that. God said that in his word. So those that need to repent, you have an opportunity to do that tonight while we're going through the program. So interesting topic tonight. What every wives wish their husband knew. So I've been playing with this here for a while, and I figured, you know what? I'm going to get it out there, and I'm going to get these amazing ladies on here to help out. And so there's a bunch of lists of topics I have here. I know we won't get to them all. Excuse my voice. I caught a little bit of a cold or flu here, so I'm showing up as I promised I would every Friday at 5:30 Mountain Standard Time. So appreciation, ladies, and you can chime in anytime as you want. What would you wish your husband knew when it came to appreciation? And how could that motivate you to go to the next level? How could that motivate you to drag him into the bedroom? How could that motivate you to take him out to dinner? But go ahead. Whatever wives wished your husband knew when it came to appreciation.
I guess it's that it doesn't take a lot. I think it's simply said. You said appreciation. So in all your efforts and all your doing and all your dealing and all your giving, it's just nice for someone to truly appreciate you for all that you do. And just simply saying that, right? I appreciate you. Or thank you for helping me, or thank you for doing it. And it to me, I think it's so simple, but yet so impactful that you just feel valued. You just feel like what you're doing is not in vain, that somebody sees you and they really are like, yes. Yes, I see everything you do and I truly appreciate you. So simple word, I think, but such a big bang, such a big meaning.
That's enough to turn the relationship around. Michelle, how about you? Ingrid and Karen, you tune in anytime.
I think just to tack on to what my sister said, definitely just even saying the word. Some men feel as though they have to do a big to-do in order to show their appreciation. And I think it sometimes, even as wives, we don't always recognize that how much we actually do. And then it hits you and you're like, well, nobody even cares. Like nobody even cares. I did this. I run the world and I put all these things together. Then I got to come home and take care of this. And you hear us complain. And really at the end of the day, it's because we don't always feel like people take us for granted. We don't always feel like people appreciate even the little things. So again, saying a thank you is good, but even just sometimes saying, you know what, I know I worked hard today too, but I'm going to come in and make sure I warm up the food. So sometimes not just the saying it, but the showing of appreciation comes from not a gift, not necessarily you taking me out, but for you to say, well, let me take that burden off of you, or let me share that burden with you.
I think appreciation is so important and critical. It's a simple word and it's a simple thing, and some men may miss it, some may not miss it, but it's like a love language that most females or women or anybody in general would like to feel validated by saying thank you, I appreciate what you've done for me today, or the last 10 years or whatever. You know what I mean? I think it just gives some kind of validation.
Beautiful. Such a simple word. How about you, Ingrid? And I've got something to add.
I think I'm going to just echo what Karen just said. Love language is very, very important. We're all unique and different, and we have different love languages, whether it's, act of service, affirmation, touching, physical, whatever it is, we all have our little special love language. And so I think it would be important for each of our spouse to take the time to know your wife, know your spouse well, find out what is it that makes her feel validated. So if you know that she is someone that likes maybe words of affirmation, not necessarily someone that needs gifts and flowers and all that, but just a simple thank you or appreciation or so forth. That goes a really, really long way. So I think if each husband would take the time to understand their spouse, their wife, and take the time to know them inside out, that in itself is a love language in itself, by the way. But then showing her that I've taken the time and I know what you are about, and I'm going to demonstrate my love to you in the way that you want to be.
My Lord, after saying all that, and you tell him all that, or he tells you all that, there's nothing that you wouldn't do for that individual. A few years ago when I was working, actually, we were cleaning up at the end of the day, and where we lack an appreciation, I find, is when we take one another for granted. We become so familiar with one another. So he took the garbage out. Well, that's his job. I mean, she washed the dishes. Well, that's her job. The children's job. I mean, she cooks the food. Well, that's what she's supposed to do. Kind of, sort of, right? But I was working some years ago before I retired, and we're cleaning up at the end of the day in the shop, and I had a wheelbarrow there. We're putting all the dirt inside. This other gentleman was helping me, and like I said, we've known each other for years. I just went, and after we finished, I went and emptied the wheelbarrow, came back into the shop, and I was wondering why this individual was so grumpy. So I said, "Hey, man, like, what's happening?" He said, "You never said thank you." I said, "Wow." So it made me step back a bit, that even after we work with one another for so many years, even after you know one another for so many years, just that simple word of saying thank you, or I appreciate what you just did. Simple word, but yet still, when we become so familiar with one another, it can be a deal breaker down the road, because we take one another for granted. So I think Michelle touched a little bit, and we're going to try to keep on the individual's topic that we're talking about, because we can kind of go all over the place. So motherhood challenge. What do your wives wish husbands knew when it comes to motherhood challenges? This is a big one.
Oh boy. I mean, from day one. If they only knew. Motherhood, what I wish my spouse would know would.
Is it too much?
It's a lot. Like, they expect you to do everything, and the child comes to you most of the times. And then they're like, as they grow up, they're coming to you most of the times. Oh, they care for you more. Oh, you understand them better. I don't know how to. You can explain it better.
Sounds like deflection.
Yes.
How about you? Are you finished? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I can add to that, though, because again, just like how Ingrid had said about husbands getting to know their wives and what works for that wife, like how best way to communicate to that wife or to show appreciation. I think it goes down even to with motherhood and the children. It's the same way. Yes, they may, I would ask my kids straight up, why do you always come to me? You just walk right past your father to ask me a question. Why you wouldn't ask him or ask us both in general? And it's because you're actually going to say yes, or you're going to at least think about it before he doesn't even let me get the words out. But I think the point is, at the end of the day, is that even for the father to learn their children too, and not just think that's the mother's responsibility. That's one thing. And then other than that, one thing that I used to always hear was, well, I don't know how. And some fathers feel like the mother, like she's got this all under control and she knows what she's. I never had a child before either. I don't know what to do with them either. I'm just like trying things. So sometimes just to jump in and make the attempt to try to make it work, I think would be again, it goes back to appreciation, although we're talking about motherhood, but I think that would be appreciated. Is like, yeah, you're afraid, but guess what? I'm afraid too. I don't always get it right either. So motherhood is like, I think for me going now in hindsight, now my kids are almost grown, for me going into it, I wish that the husband understood that I don't know what I'm doing either. There's no manual, there's no book. I mean, there's books out there that people write about it, but there's no book I'm reading from. I'm just going by my intuition or by my heart. And, just join in. Let's figure this out together.
No, absolutely. So when it comes to the motherhood challenge too, I've noticed after the mother's been home all day, she's been doing everything else, and the husband comes in and he just wants to sit down on the couch and watch TV and expecting dinner to be there on time and everything else. You know what? I think they need like a little check on that, because I had instance where, if you're tired coming in, how much time do you really need to wind down? So we appreciate that. Let me know how much time you need to wind down, half an hour or an hour. But at the end of the day, we never see what the mothers are doing in that home. There's so much that they do with the cleaning and just everything else. And there's parents, teachers, games. There's school games. There's birthday parties. There's dinners and everything else. It's just a lot. So I wonder sometimes as husbands, really know exactly the full chore that wife is doing. If he could have a camera and actually monitor her for that day, he'd probably scratch his head and says, "Man, you know what? I think I'll just keep on working." Go ahead, Ingrid.
I'm actually going to take my experience even a little back further.
Yeah.
I think what I'd like husbands to understand is that the bond between a mother and a child is slightly different.
Absolutely.
From the bond between a father and a child. The bond between a mother and a child starts within the womb, right? Mm-hmm. And then when that child is born, and then there's breastfeeding, and then there's always this constant touching and hugging, there's a different kind of bond that happens. And I would even say this, that some of the experience that I've had, and I've heard other friends of mine have, is that sometimes the spouses get a little jealous because they feel that the time that they had with their wife is now sort of has been taken up with this beautiful child that they both love so much.
Right.
But the father, the man, even though he's father, he's also male, and he's missing mother's attention that he had 100% before the child came into the picture. So that was sort of one of my experiences where I had to sort of, we talked about it, and I had to recognize that, hold on, I need to remember here to try to balance this as much as I can so that, my husband is not feeling left out by any chance. But I think that I just want to make sure that husbands need to understand, as was mentioned earlier on, that the amount of work that's involved, particularly from the mother's side, is very, very significant. And so the child takes a lot of time from mom. And so would like to say for the men and the husband listening out there, just to recognize that, and just not always just think that she is not giving you all the attention that you need. Just have a little bit of sympathy for her, and just be supportive and communicate, and you would be able to work this whole process through.
So, men, are you listening out there to what these ladies have to say? We've got some experienced mothers on the line here. Charmaine, come on in. I mean, she is as a teacher, principal. You've got all these children during the daytime. I commend you, teachers. I lift my hat off to you, teachers. Sorry, ladies, I'm not just leaving you out, but after dealing with the children all day, and then you still got to come home and deal with your own. It takes somebody special, and knowing that's your gift and that's your purpose to do something like that.
I'm glad that you acknowledge that, because I know even before, like when I lived with my sister when I was in university, and actually no, when I first started teaching, and if you asked if I had children, my students would yell out, "Nope." And if she ever does, she won't be here. Like to work all day with them and to hear, and I think it's the noise, it's the sound, it's the everybody needs you, everybody's pulling from you. So I appreciate that. But honestly, I think motherhood is one of the hardest things I have ever done in my whole entire life.
Wow.
And it's like, wow, it's, you constantly, I think you're really dealing with a lot of insecurities, like have I broken this child? Am I doing it right? What is their future going to be like? How do my decisions impact their life? And so I think it's just for somebody else to stop and realize, or your husbands to realize that like so much is going on with us emotionally, like we're just emotional beings anyways. And then Ingrid made some great points. Like there is this bond. Sometimes they are expressing like they're kind of out of the equations, but I think, I know looking back, I felt like I needed to be seen too, because, you know, I was dealing with so much with my son. He's at one hospital, I'm at one hospital,
right,
we're home, and we're dealing with stuff,
right,
because, you know, due to birth, and then we're in and out of the hospital, and there's so much going on, but then there's still other demands on you.
Right.
And I think that was really hard, just to really see you and really tap in and really hone in to be like, what is it that you need also? Because you had a child, and like Michelle's saying, sometimes you're lost. I walked in the house. I'd been with my sister for years. She had 2. I was right there, literally from birth to years with her. But I brought my son, and I just like, and now what? Right. So I think a lot of days we're lost and confused. And I think the biggest thing is like, you're just like, so I wish someone would just help me. Right. So yes, I had a great support team. I was so blessed. I can't say that enough. Right. And if I didn't have that, I don't know how I would have done this. But yeah, I think it's sometimes for your significant other to just really see the whole situation, like eyes wide open. Like, yeah, we do a lot, as Karen was saying, like there's so much, or as Michelle was saying, they're always coming to you for something, and there's so much that goes on in a day. And sometimes it's too much and you just need to hide. I mean, years, like I got smart, and I keep trying to tell my friends, I escape. Saturday morning, I just escape. Whether I go get gas at Costco, so you know the lines are long, I get a coffee, I just have to escape. And it's really sad, because I'm not even doing anything that's really enjoyable, but I'm just away from the situation. So I think it's just for someone to know that you also have needs, and you also need to be seen, and you also need to, a lot of times, just have some help. Just because we make it look easy, it doesn't mean it's easy.
I have a question for you, Mr. Bonitto. How do I say this? What is in men's head? Why? Okay, moving on. Their kids are older now. And the mothers are always, is it because of our nature that we're always worrying, or always one step ahead, planning for university, planning for their future, planning, thinking about, you know, what they're going to do and how you're going to help them, what are their liens, you know, stuff like that. Whereas the men are not thinking that. Are they just not thinking it, or they're just not communicating it? Or are they just like, let me just get the finances for that and blah, blah, blah. And like, you know.
We leave it to the wives because we know that they can handle it.
That's not a good answer.
That's not a good answer. No, it's interesting, because you women have intuition. I've always said that men don't have. So this is a question here, even to answer a little bit what you're just saying there, is why is it that the majority, if you have a household with girls and boys, the ladies always have an idea what they're going to do from the time sometimes they're 17, 18, 20. Sometimes the boys, I've known them that they're 23, 25 and still struggling for identity, still struggling for a purpose. So what is it that I want to do, right? So I think it's almost in the women's DNA, the wife's DNA, that they're thinking ahead. They're not just being present, but they're also future focused for tomorrow. If we get here tomorrow, you know, how is that going to look? How are we going to show up? But, you know, how can you get your husband to be in that mindset is by saying, hey, you know what, sweetheart, we got to have a conversation now. And you get what you ask for. That's Bible concept, right? We have not because we ask not. So I wonder sometimes, are we not asking? And if we're asking, how are we asking for them to get involved, to support, to give you that support that you want to support? Ask.
Okay.
and you shall receive.
Okay.
You can take that one offline and call me when that succeeds. but so with motherhood and appreciation, I've seen somewhere that actually ties in. You know, when a husband is around the table with the family and the children are there, it's nice if those children see the father acknowledge the mother for what she has prepared and what she has done, because that child is going to mimic what he sees, and some things he might leave out down the road, but there's some good things and some good qualities that he can grasp for future use, right? I know when I used to work out of town and I would come back, I'd work 6 days out and 6 days in. My son would pick me up and I said, come on, let's go. We're going to stop off at Safeway. I want to buy my girlfriend some flowers. He looked at me and says, my wife, David, I want to buy my wife some flowers. But I'm sending a message to him that this is how you treat your wife to be when you get to that stage. Just appreciation. She was down here looking after the children, the finance, and just everything. And then I just show up for 6 days, almost like I'm on holidays, Karen. But we made it work. But if we don't, for the motherhood challenge, I believe that that conversation and that appreciation should be shown from the father to not just to the mother, but also that the children can see the act of appreciation for what that mother is doing. So good. So here's one. I've heard from you ladies on another program that I was blessed to be on here probably a couple of years ago. The 40 plus mindset. Can somebody tell me about this 40 plus mindset? It's like somebody says it's like the light bulb goes on. It like we've been walking around in limbo. It's been dark, and somebody turned the switch on, and all of a sudden, explain that to us and help the husbands to understand what exactly is taking place at that stage in mindset. And I know I heard Michelle said something about it in our program, but Karen, Ingrid, Charmaine, give these husbands some feedback.
My understanding of my experience or understanding of the 40 plus mindset is that when a woman hits 40, she comes to a place of understanding who she is and what she wants out of life.
Okay.
And sadly to say, a lot of times, a lot of marriages and relationships are affected because of that.
Right.
And, a woman comes into that place. For me, I could say that I came into that place of knowing exactly who I am. Mm-hmm. Not that I didn't know that before. Right. Exactly what I want, exactly what I don't want, and what I'm not willing to put up with. And so I think that's a place where the light bulb comes on and you have this moment of, you know what? This is me. This is what I'm looking for. This is how I want to be treated. This is what I'm looking for in my marriage or in a relationship going forward for the rest of my life. And I'm not willing to diverse from that. Not to say that we can't work together to achieve that, but the other party has to be coming along as well. So I just think that for me, I'll just speak for myself, is that you come to that place of understanding, a whole understanding, pretty much a good understanding of who you are and where you're heading and what you want out of life.
So my question, Ingrid, and I'm sure these other ladies are going to chime in because I know Michelle heard her say something like that on the program, but what happened between 30 and 40?
You know, I don't have the answer to that. I can't give an answer.
I don't either. That's why I'm asking.
Perhaps someone can. Sorry, my voice is going.
Mothering.
You know, thank you, ladies. Mothering is a huge part of that, because you've been and I believe it was Michelle that mentioned that earlier on. You're being pulled in so many different ways,
right?
Whether it's work, whether it's the children, whether it's the husband, whether it's the job, if you happen to be working outside of the home and so forth, that you get to a place where you lose yourself to a certain extent through that whole process because you're so busy.
Right.
Making sure everyone else is getting what they need from you. And so you leave yourself sort of last, not recognizing, and you get to that place. I just think it's that 40 number. You get to that place where you just think, hold on a second now. No. I want more. This is me. I've given to everyone. I've given as much as I can. And now I want to focus on me, not to say we're excluding the family or the children.
Right.
And so you get to that place where you just take a breath and recognize, hey, you come into a fullness and understanding of who you are as a person and as an individual. And it's not to say that when you get married, two become one. We know that the Word of God says that.
Right.
However, there's still two different individuals in that marriage. You become one, but there's still two different distinct individual, different personalities. Absolutely. So you can't afford to lose yourself in that oneness.
Right.
Right. And so we need to recognize that as well, because I believe that a lot of women lose themselves after a while because they've been giving out so much that they have stopped recognizing what their needs and desires and wants are.
No, beautiful. I could chime in, but I want to hear from these other ladies. No, beautiful, Ingrid. Thanks for sharing. Go ahead, Charmaine, Karen, or...
I think we also stopped caring. I remember.
Is that what happened? Okay.
I got to 40 and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Ingrid covered it all. That was it. You're so into everybody else's everything. You start to kind of lose who you are. You wake up one day and it's almost like you have an epiphany. And I remember it was almost like an awakening.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just woke up and I just felt like I was like a rebirth. And I didn't care. I'm like, I don't care. Like, so anything you want to say or do, I don't care. Like, all of that just doesn't matter to me. Whatever.
Hello.
Hope you got to know Charmaine. She's real.
I don't care.
It's true.
I got a few questions, but I'm listening.
No, but it's very true. For me, I definitely call it my awakening period. And it's funny because 10 years later now, I sit here and I'm like, I definitely see how certain things change for me within my marriage, within my family relationship. Because my husband used to tease me. He was like, what happened to that quiet little shy Michelle I married? Like, you never used to really speak up or say anything. And every once in a while he'll tease me because I'll be like, oh, can you mind if I do blah, blah, blah? He was like, why are you even asking me? You're going to do it anyways. I know, but I'm trying to be respectful. Just ask your opinion. But like Charmaine said, after a while, like whereas before, I don't know if I was afraid of him, if I was afraid of God or who I was afraid of, but it was like I always felt like I had to please everybody and everyone. And then it was kind of like I moved on from there. And you know what? I'm tired of always being the last one thought of. I'm going to think about me. Wow. Now, like I said, moving forward 10 years later now, I'm kind of sitting here like, I don't think I reverted back to who I was before I was 40, but it's kind of like I got a better balance.
Okay.
But why does it happen? What I can tie it down to, I really feel like something happens to us as women hormonally.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was Michelle. And I could swear I was going crazy.
Right.
And then I remember when certain people at my church turned 40. And like you said, sometimes your relationship doesn't make it anymore. Mm-hmm. Some of your choice, like different things happen. Some of it could be awesome. Some of it can be awesome things that happen. And I've seen some awesome things and some negative things. But my point is, I've had conversations with women once they hit that 40 mark. And I was like, it has to be the hormones, man. Like something totally changes in our hormones.
So how do we get Karen? I'm coming back to you too, as I know you've got a few things to say there. But how do we get our men, our husband, to understand that? Is that the stage of the menopausal period that starts at that age and so forth? So how do we get our husband to understand? Because my wife told me before the years came about, get a book and read up on women going through menopause, because there's going to be some days I just not going to be myself. Some days, you know what, you're reclusive. Some days it's just not ordinary. So she warned me before that time, but how many men are actually warned about that? I mean, you have information on Google, you've got books, you've got YouTube, you got everything there, right? Just to help us so we can be more present with you during that time, so you don't feel left out during that time, because you've been feeling left out until you got to that age. So now how much more can we support you from that age going on? But I got a few more things. But Karen, come on in. Tell us about your 40 experience.
I had some changes
Okay.
in my life. At 40, I went on my first cruise.
Oh, nice.
By myself.
Okay, midlife crisis?
Yeah.
No. I think it was a awakening from trauma.
Okay.
That I experienced.
Okay.
For me then. And 10 years later, still discovering and, lifing.
Right. Right. No, so from 20 to 40, do we have some form of identity? Or what is our identity from during that stage before we get to 40? So what I'm hearing is like we're doing everything else, but who am I? What's my purpose? It seems like I'm at the end of the totem pole here.
I don't think that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think it's because I feel like the expectation, or we've always been taught that life goes a certain way and we're supposed to be a certain somebody.
Right.
And I can remember at 18 thinking I'm grown. And then I hit 21 and I'm like, whoa, now I'm grown. Then I hit 24. Then I hit 27. There was just pivotal times in my life. And I don't know if it's just a woman thing, but every couple of years, it's almost like you get a nudge. Like it's like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like something else. It's almost like giving birth within you. Like something else is just
right.
You're just waking up to stuff. But I think it's sometimes the expectation, so you're this age and we're going to get married and we're going to have children and we're going to have our career and we're going to go to school and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I think that we have done all of those things.
Right.
And then something happens at 40 where you're almost like, okay, I did all those things, but is that what I wanted to do? Or did I do it because that was the expectation?
Okay.
We're expected to do things, right? So I think that's where you get to this age where all of a sudden you start to question, not necessarily questioning the choices, but questioning the choices.
The choice that you make. So, what would your wives want to let the husbands know? So those that are just tuning in, our thought and topic tonight is what every wives wish their husband knew. We talked about appreciation, motherhood challenge, and the 40+ mindset. So for you ladies, what is it that you'd want some of the husbands out there to know about that time period?
I would say that for them to try to be sympathetic in them. When I say sympathetic, it's not like, oh, I'm depressed or something like that. Well, hopefully some people may go through that. But what I really think that they've got to be aware that it's something that can happen and to be patient. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
Because if they're trying to say, well, I'm trying to figure out my wife, or, all of a sudden she's changing, right. Especially when they're like, it's changing and it's affecting them in a negative way. Mm-hmm. The wrong thing for you to do is come to us and tell us that. Because at that point, we're going through our own metamorphosis. And to be honest, we don't care that you've been affected. We're feeling like we have put in, I know for me at that point, I had not been married 20 years, but I had put in how many years of taking care of you and doing all this stuff for you. And that's when I'm coming through this thing of I'm not feeling appreciated. I'm doing all this stuff for the kids. And really, I think what happened too with me is the kids were growing and growing and growing. So they're becoming less dependent on me. My baby is now 5 or 6 and he's going to school. And I'm now like my time wasn't as filled up as it was before. So now I became more aware of, well, what do I want to do today? And then it's like, oh, okay, I want to go do this. Well, I don't want to go do that. Okay. Whereas before I would say, well, I'm not going to go out because my husband doesn't want to go. I was like, well, I don't want to sit in the house and just watch TV. So I'm going to go out. So let me just go ahead and go out. Like I started to just see myself like, I want to smell the roses. I want to go sit in the grass. Well, you know what? I'm going to do that because a lot of times what we do, like we were saying, mothering and even wifing, you are trying to get to know your spouse better. You're trying to take care of your kids. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us lose our sense of self and who we are. So I think when we're going through that 40, it's like Charmaine said, you look back on, you did this, and this, because that's what you were always taught to do. Even if you weren't taught, even if no one put it on the chalkboard, it was what you saw as your example. So you did it. but was it really what I ever really wanted to do? And I think what's different about I would think, I'm not saying that kids that are not 40 now, women are not going to still keep going through those metamorphoses. I think you go through them in different stages in life. But the thing is, now they have so much access to so much information through this thing called the internet and through this thing called social media. And a lot of times you can have friends or support groups and you can talk. A lot of the stuff that I went through, I felt like I had no one I could talk to. And I remember feeling like, I wish this was something I could go to. Church is supposed to be the place where I can go and I couldn't talk to nobody about the things I was going through. Because why? Because nobody was talking. I never saw my mother going through a change when she was in her 40s. I mean, I knew they talk about menopause, but what I was taught, what was going on with me, it wasn't menopause, or at least not menopause is what I was taught menopause was.
Right.
So I'm just sitting there like, nobody ever talks about this stuff. How do I find this out? And it wasn't until God blessed me to get close enough to one woman who said, yeah, I've gone through that too. And I was like, oh, thank you. I am not alone. There's at least one person out there. And like I said, later on, I started running into other people when I finally opened up my mouth, and I may have found out, oh, my sister had gone through it too. But yeah, I definitely feel like different things go on. And I think the hormones and then what your situation is. Because even though with me in my 40s, I'm now getting rid of children. My sister was just having a child at 40. So she wasn't, but it still happened to her and it's her, she had her own experience. Right. So yeah, definitely husbands, don't try to understand everything. Just try to be understanding. Try to be patient.
I like that. What comes up in my mind is, so how long should this understanding take? Is it till 40 to 45? Is it 40 to 50? I mean, when we married, we did say, until death do us part, and sickness and health, for better or for worse. And sometimes this could be the worst stage, but what does anybody know the time frame around that time?
I wouldn't say that there's an actual time frame, because that kind of change that we are going through in our 40s going forward, it's different for every woman.
Okay.
Some women, it takes a longer time. Others, it's in a shorter span. But I think I would like to add, basically to what Michelle was just saying, is that what we'd like to say to the husbands is like, just to be supportive, communicate, constant dialogue. And maybe what we need to do as women is share what we're going through. I know when I was starting to have these night sweats and so forth, I was just so embarrassed to even want to talk about it, because it bothered me that I'm having these sweats and I just couldn't explain what was really happening to me. But I just believe that if wives can communicate with their husbands, and as Michelle said earlier on, there's a lot of information out there. If a husband wants to educate himself, take the time to go online, look it up, see what's involved in that, just on his own, as well as with his wife, and perhaps maybe go through counseling together if that's something that the two parties would look at. But the whole thing that needs to happen in this whole process is support and understanding and communication. And there is no specific time frame to say, okay, husbands, it's from this time to that time, and we're done. So, you have to love your wife enough to want to go through this whole process with her, for better or for worse. And here's a challenging time in your marriage for some people. So again, just be supportive and be open to communicate and educate and counsel if necessary.
I love that, Ingrid, support. And I think that is the biggest thing. I know Brother Bunny probably would say, well, tell us what it is, but sometimes you don't want to. Yeah. Sometimes you just wish somebody could read the room, read the situation. I'm coming in, I'm tired, or I don't feel good, or this child's getting on my last nerves. I just need somebody else to take the wheel. I just need that support so I can get 5 minutes to just reset. And once I reset, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. But I think Ingrid hit it right on the head. It's that support. And yeah, I don't always want to tell you what you need to give me, because if you're taking care of me, you're looking out for me. Sure, I get it in that maybe your way of supporting me isn't the way that I would want. I understand that approach, but sometimes it's the simple things. I come home and there's food. Yeah. Right? I just come home and you tend to this child and I just can a state where I don't feel good and somebody's there just to be like, I'm here. You sit down on the couch, right? And so support, that's where it is. I think that's the biggest thing that we need.
Charmaine, honestly, I'll just jump in on that. I'll just share this personally. I remember I came home one day because I'm always cooking. And I came home one day and my husband cooked and I wept. I couldn't stop crying and he couldn't understand why I was crying.
Oh,
I just kept crying. I just couldn't stop crying. And
He's
never cooked again since then.
Oh my goodness. Was it because of the tears, or did you say something about the food?
I think it was just the tears. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, I think I just scared him. But I just couldn't stop weeping,
Wow.
I was just so overjoyed because I heard Charmaine say that, and it just triggered that memory for me.
Right. But I'm sure you must have expressed, or did you find it hard to express why? Because he might have thought that, oh, that's just silly. I'm cooking the food for you, but it was a big thing.
I did express. I did let him know. Yeah, I did let him know that I was really proud. I was very happy, and I just kept crying, and that was just I think I was so overcome with emotions that he didn't know what to do with that.
Mm-hmm. So beautiful. And that was you said you never cooked again after that, Ingrid?
No.
Seriously. I like what Charmaine said. Husbands, yeah, you know what? Some things we might have to tell you, but husbands, learn to read
the room.
Read the room. And the same, I'm even going to the bedroom. Like my wife sometimes, like if she's just exhausted and she's just up and I'm downstairs, I don't even have to ask her if she wanted coffee because she's up. Read the room. She needs just that little bit. And it's never usually the big thing, as I'm always finding. I've been married for over 30 plus years, but it's always the little thing. And still, no matter how long you have been married, I'm finding out that there's still more things that you can find out about one another, to just have a more engaging conversation and just to share those romantic times together. So gentlemen, husbands out there, men getting ready to engage or get married, learn to read the room. She shouldn't have to tell you every single thing. Emotional support. Somebody told me here a couple of days ago, men's, I'm jumping down to love language, but I'll just touch that, okay? Men, number one is your physical touch, and the woman is, as we know, is emotional. They want that emotional connection. But how can I give you your love language of physical touch when my need is not being met? So your need is going to be met all the time, but what about my need has to be met? Learn to read the room. So let's go to date nights. Date nights. What do you want men to know? I've got a few things written down here. What do you want men to know when it comes to date night? Do we stop dating after we put the ring on the finger? Do we stop dating after the kids are after your emptiness syndrome? Even when the children are around, like how do we sneak away and find that time just to connect and not to forget of how we even met? Even going back to the place where we once met in Toronto, is a place that my wife and I used to go for a steak and cheese sandwich, and I just drive by there pretty well almost every time when I go back to Toronto, just to reminisce of how beautiful it was just to be there with her. So go ahead, ladies. Date night.
I need you to plan everything. Like I don't want to participate if you're planning date night. So don't say, oh, okay, where do you want to go to the restaurant? Okay, pick the restaurant and call them. No. I want to be wined and dined. I want everything planned. I want the babysitters already contacted. I want the night is contacted. I want time is secured. You're on time. Everything is accounted for. But I know some people might be spontaneous and that's okay too. That's I'm just like, if you want to date me, I don't want to participate. Now, if I'm planning the date night, sure. Oh, do you want to do this? Okay, and I'm very on top of everything. But yeah, I don't want to be a part of it. No.
I find something that helps is you communicate at the beginning whenever your relationship starts, during, whenever, but you have that communication where, you know what, we're going to alternate date nights or anniversaries or birthdays or whatever. And then, you know, this year or this week is your week and next week is my week. And then you just kind of, you take it, you know, that's going to be your week and you run with it and you do all the preparations and whatever. It could be a surprise or it doesn't have to be a surprise, but I find that helps. So man, listen, you guys can communicate and do that. Switcheroos, alternate dates.
Definitely. Charmaine, you mentioned, you know, you like for the husband to just go and plan these things. So this is what I did. I think it was a few years ago, just before COVID. I actually planned the vacation all by myself. I found a resort and everything. And, you know, I told my wife and she was proud of me, of course. And I was proud of myself because I've never done that before. Now, if she had planned it, she probably would have been a bit cheaper than me because those women just knows how to go. Ladies just know how to go around and get those deals and whatever, right? But yeah, it is different when the husband actually plans something without the wives actually coming in and having to action that. Michelle, you're there.
I'm trying to behave myself. I don't know why you're calling my name.
Don't behave. That's not your name, so don't try.
Because my response was going to be have a date night. That would be a starter for me, but let's just have a date night. Oh goodness. But yeah, I would say I think just even having a date night and the importance of date nights is something that I would like husbands to know. And it's not just in the beginning, but in the middle, in the end, especially when the children come along. And like Charmaine said, like I am that way too. I don't want to be involved in all. If I'm planning it, fine. I'm going to make sure we have the babysitter. I'm going to make sure all of these things are set up. But if you're saying I'm taking you out on Friday, don't wait like 45 minutes before we're about to walk out the door and say, "Oh, did you get a babysitter?" No, you wait a minute. You know we have children, so you know things like that. But yeah, the point is, at the end of the day, I think just understand that those things are important. Taking time out as a couple and taking time away from everybody and everything else just to reconnect is very important. So I think that's something that I would like men to make sure they understand. And the other part is date night. A lot of times, before we got married, date night was a part of the pursuit. Okay, now you have me, so you no longer have to pursue me, feel, but really you do. You need to still continually pursue my heart.
Yes.
You know, so if you're thinking about, my husband has a saying which I find is so true. If you're constantly thinking about me and planning for me, and I'm constantly thinking about you and taking care of you, then we're both going to be taken care of because I'm looking out for you and you're looking out for me. Absolutely. So, don't always be like, well, I'm never going to get anything out of it. Okay, maybe you won't get anything out of this experience, but then when I set up the next one, I'm making sure that I have everything in mind, all the stuff that you like to do. At least in the perfect world, it would be like that. See, that wasn't too bad. I didn't misbehave too badly.
What? No, not too bad. I thought you did too. But when a husband does that, what does that demonstrate to you? Give me 2 or 3 words. What that demonstrate to you, and how does that make you now want to show up? How does that make you feel?
The word that comes to my mind is special, because when we were dating, I felt special. Like I felt like I was the one that you were going all the way out for. I was the one that you brought a flower to or picked up or talked to every day. Whatever it was that we used to do when you were pursuing me, it made me feel special. And then you get married and you get caught up in life and you're lifing, as they say, or adulting. And, it gets monotonous and it gets stressful and all those things. And so being able to have that date night and reconnect, whether it's once a week, once a month, whatever you guys decide amongst yourself, I think it's people, we really have to recognize how important it is.
Beautiful. Listen, we got about 5 minutes left. So, Ingrid, give me one word of how that makes you feel. Karen, give me one word of how that makes you feel when they demonstrate that action to want to continue to pursue you.
I think the key word that Michelle used, and I'm going to echo that as well, is that I want to feel special.
Right.
I want to feel special. I want to feel that I matter.
Okay. Karen?
I want to feel validated, appreciated.
Right. Right. Asking out demonstrates respect. It demonstrates desire, commitment, and like many of you said before, caring enough to plan ahead and a whole lot more. She needs to know that you were once a priority. So who dropped the ball? Why drop the ball now? I still want to be pursued. I still want to feel special like you, how you made me feel special. So there's words that will come to you, just feeling special, you feel needed, and all that. So ladies, I'm going to have to sign off. It's 8:27. I said we'll be on here for 50 minutes. I appreciate your time, Charmaine, Barnett, Michelle Johnson, Karen Johnson, and Ingrid. We appreciate you folks being on here tonight. So there's going to be a part 2. So I hope you women and ladies will come on and join me again next Friday, same time, 5:30 Mountain Standard Time. We'll be talking about me time. What about me time? Another one, do you know me? Emotional bank account. How is that showing up, or is it even showing up? Compatibility and indifference, intimacy and lack thereof, communication roadblocks, word matters, perfectionism, love language. These are all some of the topics that we'll be covering next week. So I hope you folks will be joining us. Thank you again for coming in, for being vulnerable, for expressing and just letting these men know. The program, ladies and gentlemen, was what every wives wish their husband knew. So tune in again next Friday for a continuation of what every wives wish their husband knew. And the husbands might be out there saying, well, what about us? Well, your turn is coming up, okay? You will have time to have your conversation also. So God bless each and every one of you. And thank you again one more time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye,
night,
y'all.
everybody.
Beautiful.
You're tuned to High Ground Gospel Radio, reaching at the highest mountain and the lowest valley. Thank you for listening to the program Transforming Your Relationships. Joining us again next Friday at 5:30 Mountain Standard Time, right here on HGG Radio with Elder Bonitto Grange.